NFL and NCAA early line movers out here this week, Teddy. Some interesting ones to take a look at. The NFL looks like people can't get enough early. The Seattle Seahawks open up at -2.5 at BetOnline, -120. Now sitting at -1 in most locations, including BetOnline as well. If we take a look at some other NFL games there, the Philadelphia Eagles opened up at a +7. And now sitting at a +6. And even as we're taping this, Teddy, seeing some 5.5s out there. Before we talk about the NCAA championship game, talk about some of these line movements and what's going on between these.
Well, let's be real careful about what we're saying the opening line was. BetOnline is the first to post.
Correct.
For many of these games. BetOnline is not considered, at least not in Las Vegas, to be the opening line. It's not even close. Their limits
What
are
are you
so
saying?
low.
You can't walk, you can't go to Las Vegas, Teddy, right now, walk into a BetOnline shop there?
You cannot. But the key is the limits. BetOnline has openers. Their limits are low. You're not getting a significant bet down on the BetOnline openers. You're getting significant bet down line on Bookmaker or Penny or the Superbook here in Vegas or Canner or William Hill, et cetera, et cetera. This line opened 4 and got bet up. It didn't open 7 and get bet down. You can look at the markets. I can go get book after book. Chicago, 4.5 at Bookmaker, 4 at Penny, 4.5 at Westgate. It was only BOL that opened with an off-market number because they open early. They don't have the rest of the markets to work with. So we've seen the money come. The initial money came on Chicago. Now we're seeing a little bit of buyback on Philly. And that has everything to do with the fact that Nick Foles has been, is expected to go this week. It's all injury-related money. We talk about the money for Seattle. And again, it takes much less money to move a line from 2.5 to 3.5 than it does from 2.5 down to 1. All right. Or much more money to move it from 2.5 to 3.5. And a 2.5 to 1 is not a big move in the betting markets. It's just an initial boom. Let's get the money. The money's coming from the dog. Let's drop the line. From 2.5 to 3 is a huge move. From 3 to 3.5 is a huge move. 2.5 to 1, the money's come in on Seattle. And again, not surprisingly so. There's not a lot of love for this Dallas Cowboys team in the betting markets. There haven't been all year. And you say, I got Russell Wilson catching points against Dak Prescott. The betting market's clearly interested in that.
We also talk about Sagarin ratings. Then we go into, Teddy, and say, you know what? Sometimes these betting markets are going to move depending on what the public likes early, what some sharps are taking early. Looking at this line, I've always been a proponent of the Dallas Cowboys at home. I think they're at a great price right now, even hovering around some money line stuff. Talk about, Teddy, what you try to incorporate in the capping when you're looking at these wild card games and some ratings or ranking systems heading in that may be able to point you in the right direction.
Sure, and this is about as simple an angle as they'll ever find. It only works wild card weekend, but since 2002, we're talking about a system, a blind strength of schedule betting system that's cashed at a 70-something% clip. It was 37-14-1. The last 2 years, it hasn't been quite as good. So the system may have come and gone, but the bottom line is, here's the system. You simply, excuse me. You simply take the team that faced a tougher schedule based on Sagarin's numbers, and that's all you do. So when you look at the numbers for this year, all right, New Orleans 9, Dallas 11, Philly 15. These are strength of schedule numbers. So the Saints face the toughest schedule of any playoff team, followed by Dallas, Philly. Those are the only 3 teams that face tougher than average schedule. After that, it goes Baltimore, the Rams, KC, Baltimore, the Chargers, KC, the Rams, Seattle, Houston, New England, Chicago, and Indy. 29-30, Houston, New England, Chicago, and Indy. The 4 weakest schedules in the NFL. All 4 of those teams made the playoffs. So what it says for this year, it says take Dallas over Seattle, take Philly plus the points at Chicago. That's the 2 bets that are very clear from the wild card angle. Again, 37-14-1 between 2002 and 2015. It has not been as good the last 2 years. That is definitely worth noting. But nonetheless, long term, this angle has been money in the bank. It says take Dallas and Philly in week 1 of week 1 of the NFL playoffs.
Look at that. NFC East love there, Ted. And again, I like to stress by the people, Teddy didn't just say, leaning towards the Eagles in that situation because of how big my affection for the Philadelphia Eagles is, but was music to my ears. We'll see how those lines move throughout the week. Teddy, big game coming up next Monday night. I don't know if you've heard that yet out on the West Coast. The NCAA championship game would be played and settled on the field. Alabama and Clemson, last time they met in the title game. I was in Las Vegas at Legacy's watching, cashed an over ticket in that one last time they played. Looking at a little bit higher scenario here at 59.5 as a total for this football game. Some outlets there, Teddy, opened at 8. Money coming in as we're taping right now, seeing 5s out there. So some wild line movement buying in to the ACC and Clemson here early, Teddy.
Sure. I mean, the look-ahead line was 7.5. You know, this is one where we had a look-ahead line, Alabama, Clemson, and it was Bama laying 7.5. What happened last week? Bama didn't cover. Clemson did. Lo and behold, the money for Clemson. I mean, it's like clockwork. It's just what did you see last? Last, the market saw Clemson dominate a team that, you know, Notre Dame had a great season. They were outclassed in that ballgame. Oklahoma had a great season. They were not outclassed in that ballgame. In fact, we saw Kyler Murray put on a heck of a show against that Bama defense. That's what the Clemson money's coming in based on one game. Of course, a meaningful game, but one game late in the season. When you grade out the rosters, obviously these two teams are fairly even. You know, when you look at Alabama as a whole, boy, I mean, it's hard to make a case for betting against the Crimson Tide in any game because from a talent standpoint, there's no team in college football that's better than they are. But Clemson's not far behind, and the gap between the two, which was once huge, you know, oh, where's my camera? There it is. Huge, and now it's getting small. Let's touch your nose. All right, yeah. I could pass the sobriety test.
No, I'm really looking forward to the game. You know, the last time out, I think Clemson was getting obvious. Do you remember what the actual line was for the Clemson-Alabama game last time they were in the championship game? I think it was around 7, wasn't it? Did it close at 7.5?
Yeah,
maybe?
I think so. But yeah, give me 1 second. I'll look it up.
Yep.
You talk, I'll look.
No, I will talk. Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's out in Santa Clara this week, so it should be a decent one. But I agree with the line movement coming down because Clemson's been there, done that. And you're right. Sometimes the public sees what they see last. But let's not forget also in that football game, Teddy, versus Oklahoma. Was there ever a time, Teddy, that you thought in that football game that Oklahoma was back in it for a chance to make a run and win it? I didn't think that at all. I thought they were thoroughly dominated, crept back in. Kyler Murray's a great athlete. You know, heat, humidity slowed down that pass rush a little bit. Not going to be the same thing playing out in Santa Clara this week.
The last, of course, Alabama and Clemson have met in the postseason each of the last 3 years. Mm-hmm. Or now this will be the 4th consecutive season that they met. I'm showing -7, -6.5 for the 2 championship game battles, -3.5 for the semifinal game last year. So for as good as Clemson was last year, the market's saying Bama is better this year. And I think, I mean, in Vegas, all right, all year, everyone's talking, I've got Bama power rated higher than any college football team I've ever had. You know, talking to guys over and over again, to hear that same refrain. And, you know, when you think about the very best, I've been in Vegas 20 years, the very best college football teams, you know, you have that Miami squad, Butch Davis is back in 2000. You have the USC teams under Pete Carroll at or near the top of that list. And then you have this Miami juggernaut, you know. The markets are saying this Alabama juggernaut is better than any of the elite teams of the last 20 years in college football with a point spread in this range. Because Clemson, again, all their numbers done has gone up. Every year, Clemson gets power ranked higher and higher and higher, and yet Alabama still in the same point spread range against Clemson. And you grade out their talent, you can understand why. It's hard to get to the window betting against Alabama when you know that they have legitimate NFL prospects at every position. Clemson does too, but when it comes to depth of elite prospects, nobody can touch Alabama, period.